All right, welcome to Wise Up on Air. I hope that you are sitting down, at least for now, while we get started on an incredible episode today featuring the audio team behind the sound and music for Infinity Nikki. But before we get started, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on over here at Audiokinetic. I'm excited to say that it is the 20th year of Wise, empowering audio creators out there in the community to do amazing things with sound, music, and dialogue. We've had a bunch of releases over these last years. Here's a sampling of many of the startup screens that lead us to this year's 2026.1 version of Wise that is in beta right now. We have our beta 1 out there in the world for folks to grab and check out. This is part of our summer beta, where we come to you with the features of the next full release of Wise over the summer, giving you a chance to put your hands on it. And we're taking in feedback across this summer of beta as we talk more about our fully iterative, real-time interactive pipeline. New feature called Replay. The shared segment, now usable for not just music, but also sound, along with improved navigation and selection across our object tab. Jump in and get your hands on these user interface changes and keep them tuned as we continue to iterate based on your feedback and feedback of developers like you over the summer. We've also got a bunch of new stuff in the box for our Wise acoustics, including a new diffraction model, Wise's fastest ever acoustic simulation, along with some great usability features in the Game Object 3D Viewer, putting your hands on geometry, giving you access to those objects as part of the connected real-time workflow of Wise. And be sure to give us your feedback. We are out there in the community listening to what you are doing and trying to bring that back to Wise so that we can continue to improve the workflows with your help. And we've been out talking about something called the Road to Center Focus. Geneviève Picard was in China last year talking about this, and you can jump into that video to see a summary of the Road to Center Focus, a key piece of this 2026.1 release, and she does a great job summarizing that for us, so jump in. We've also got a ton of videos that continue to roll out across our YouTube channel, some great Wise Tour presentations, specifically from the team at Hazelight behind Split Fiction as part of our Wise Tour in Shanghai as well, and some other cool stuff. Be sure to check out our blog as well. We are surfacing the voice of the community. We have a series of articles from the fantastic game Metal Eden, documenting how they approached music, sound, dialogue, ambience and reverb design, as well as a couple of focused articles on rethinking the Wise audio input source and building a Wise plugin for real-time pitch detection. So if you're interested in extending what Wise can do at runtime, jump into the blog and hear it from folks who are taking that on themselves. And we had a couple of folks from the integrations team come out last week talking specifically about DLC creation and management in Unreal and Unity. So this wraps up the auto-defined sound banks feature that we introduced back in 2024.1. and puts it into perspective across our Unity integration using addressables and our Unreal integration using Unreal packaging. So jump in with Hugo and Victor as they take you through what it's like to set your project up for DLC so that you can continue building as a live service or providing downloadable content after launch. And the community has been busy out there. We've been checking in with folks doing cool things with Wwise out there. We have been on the ground at the Wwise tour in Lille, France. Fantastic opportunity to connect with folks on the ground there. We had fantastic presenters showcasing Dune Awakening, Saros, and Cairn. Just a great powerhouse of Wwise projects and perspectives. And I'll be on the ground in Japan coming up in July, attending the SEDEC conference and coordinating a Japan audio community meetup during my time. So if you're in Japan, please make it out. We're going to have a community conversation sharing insights from that SEDEC conference. And I've seen the lineup for this. There are a ton of great presentations focused on audio, some really technical stuff, as well as some great conversations around audio and accessibility. So I'm really excited to report back and meet up with the community there in Japan. So please get registered through the QR code and reach out. We hope to see you there in July. And we have folks out there in the Wwise community doing amazing things. I want to surface a couple of the cool Wwise related projects that I've come across. First of all, a sound mixer simulator. This is, imagine in your favorite game or experience being able to whip out a field recorder and capture the ambience that is going on. Well, someone has brought that experience to the Wwise and Unreal workflow as part of their sound mixer simulator. Super cool thing to check into, and what a great proof of concept. I remember talking about this with the team behind Season as part of a Wwise Up on Air in the past. But a cool concept, and nice to see it finding another implementation from the community. We've also got a great feature from Chris Ron bringing bubble space, an acoustic sensor that gives context around the listener and modulates based on the environment, filtering and other aspects of the sound. So check out that acoustic sensor. If you tuned in for our Audiokinetic community spotlights tools, we talked about several different tools that were integral to the way that the community is bridging the gap between Wwise and their workflows, along with a Wwise MCP server. And I'm excited to say the community continues to show up. So here is another MCP server for Wwise from John Tennant, bringing a content-first design, tightening the workflow up in a way that that he envisions being beneficial to the community. So what do you think? Jump into some of these MCP servers and let us know how you're getting on with it. We are listening to the community to hear from you where these tools can find value in your pipeline. And if you've been out there thinking about jumping into AK Spatial audio volumes, authoring with rooms, portals, and reverb zones, there's a great breakdown of their use that you can jump into that gives a clear overview of their application. And I mentioned the Community Tools Spotlight. We featured 5 different tools from developers out there bridging the gap between Wwise and developer workflows. So jump back into that to hear more about Faust to Wwise, the Wwise stem recorder, Maliant. Congrats on the launch out there. Wwise MCP and a Reaper to Wwise integration. Great tools that might have a place in your workflows, so be sure to jump in and check those out. But we are here and so excited to be talking about Infinity Nikki, audio design and technical practices. And I want to welcome to the live stream today, the team. Welcome to Wwise Up on Air. Hey.
Hey, hi everyone.
Hey, Damien.
We are for the Echoes audio team at Info Games, and I'm Roger. With 12 years of experience in the industry, I've been constantly exploring the unique expressive power of sound in games, the creative possibility it offers, and how music can evolve into a more compelling narrative language within the structure of gameplay. And this is...
Hello everyone, I'm Junjun. Technical sound designer on Infinity Nikki, and I learned Wwise in university, and I found out making game is really so fun. So in college, I made indie games, and after graduating, I went into technical audio 4 years now, and I work between code and sound. Glad to be here. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone, I'm Wang, the music designer and composer. I used to work in film music, and about 4 years ago, I moved into the game music. And since then, I have been working on Infinite Nikki.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's pleasure. Yeah, it's very pleasure to join Damien today and show how sound and technology can come together in Infinity Nikki. So shall we start?
Of course, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you and the team here. And wow, we have a ton to go through today. So folks out there, sit back, let us know if you have questions. We will bring those back around towards the end of the live stream. And, let us know how you're getting on out there. And looking forward to the presentation. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's get started. And today we'll begin with a relatively small but important level, the box filter from version 1.9. And we will use it to ask a much larger question. How can audio technology help ambient creative ideas land, scale, and stay expressive inside a fast-moving live service game? For us, the answer begins with one principle. Technology should not flatten creativity. It should help creative ideas become playable, reliable, and able to grow across the versions. So for us, the goal is not just to use technology to support design. It is to let technology and design inspire each other so that creative ideas can become more playable and technical system can become more imaginative. I'll begin with the creative goals behind the box theater, and she will then unpack the music, and Junjun will show how we implemented it. After that, we'll zoom back out and trace how the same idea continued to grow across the later versions. So why spend so much time on a relatively small level? Because small levels are often where reusable systems are born. Infinity Nikki is an open-world styling adventure and a continuously evolving live service game. We move quickly, and audio has to support story, gameplay, art, characters, outfits, and open-world exploration. That means we need efficient pipeline and reliable delivery. But efficiency is not the opposite of the creativity, and technology should not turn the work into a formula. We know that for live service games, people always talk about the importance of industrialized production. And that is true, but at the same time, we still want to keep enough room to bring players something playful, surprising from time to time. Technology can help protect the detail, emotion, and intent of our ideas on the monthly update cycle. That's really crazy, monthly update cycle. We don't want the player only take away to be, that was a nice piece of music. We want them to feel that the world sounds alive, that the music itself is performing, and that they have somehow stepped inside a dramatic experience shaped by sound. Okay, and version 1.9 tells the story of a theater troupe. So for the version, we want music to do more than simply accompany the story. We want to become part of the storytelling itself, to make the narrative more immersive and to make its emotion resonate more deeply with the players. We began to ask ourselves, could music help shape a structure that gradually draw the player into the play? The box theater was our attempt to turn that idea into a complete player journey. At first, players only hear the performance, and then they gradually move closer to it. Later, the performers began to surround them and even chase them. Eventually, the player is no longer just an audience member, they become part of the performance itself. This becomes the central concept of version 1.9. Everything is part of the play. Yeah, everything is part of the play. Behind this concept were two creative goals. First, to make the player feel as if they are inside a theater, and second, to make the player feel as if they are inside a dream. So for our first goal, we ask ourselves, how can we make the music feel truly theatrical rather than simply like a background track? So we use spatial audio as a way to guide and shape the player perception. When players first arrive here, we don't want them to feel that a music track has simply started playing. We want them to feel as if they have stepped on into a rehearsal already in progress or a performance that had already begun. These performers are not only characters on screen, they also exist as sound sources in 3D space. When players step onto the stage, they have voices coming from the left and the right. And when they return the violin to the violinist at the center stage, the violin part enters the large musical arrangement. This simple spatial relationship makes the stage feel real before the story has to explain anything. So it allows players to believe physically and sonically that performance is truly happening here. And the reason we also had a second goal is that this sense is not only about establishing reality, it also needs to support the narrative contrast between what is real and what is illusory. In the story, after the troupe director becomes trapped in his obsession, he keeps avoiding reality and remain inside an imagined version of beauty. So we didn't want the theater to be only a believable real space. We also wanted to gradually become more dreamlike and more consciously shaped by art direction. In other words, the first part helped players believe they have entered a real theater. From there, we began to make the theater feel less stable, less realistic, and almost as if it has been rearranged by memory and fantasy. The performers are visible, so their voices feel physically present, but the orchestra is never seen, even though the accompaniment never disappears. In play terms, sound from things you can see overlaps with music whose source you never see. In film language, diegetic and non-diegetic sound overlap. The contradiction reflects the story. The troupe has lost its real vitality, but the performance continues again and again. One moment, the full ensemble feels lively. The next, only the accompaniment remains. And the same space suddenly feels very lonely. It is beautiful, but slightly unsettling. So beneath this theme, the sound is really carrying three tensions: reality and illusion, celebration and loneliness, obsession and hope. Our job was to turn those tensions into something players could hear, feel, and eventually take part in. Let's pause here for a moment and look a little further ahead. None of this appeared overnight. We did not wait until version 1.9 and suddenly decide, oh, we want to build a complex spatial music level from scratch. Before the box theater, we had already been asking a series of smaller but important questions. Can music participate in the fun of gameplay instead of always staying behind the world as functional support or atmosphere? Early versions gave us the chance to test those questions one by one. At launch in Timis Beauty Lab, when our first question was very simple. Can music respond to player actions while still remaining musical? The challenge is that player behavior is never fully predictable. If every part of the music follows gameplay too directly, the result can easily become chaotic or technically fragile. So we will start with a more controlled approach. We broke the music into layers and connected selected music fragments to the core gameplay mechanics. In this level, one of the core mechanics is a conveyor belt. When Nikki's touch a forward-moving conveyor, it triggers a sample vocal figure, the little do-do-do-do-do phrase. So in the opposite way, if she touches the backward moving, it will trigger like do-do-do-do-do. So there is also a giant powder poof that can drop down onto the player. When it lands, it triggers a short vocal, ba. So together, these actions create a playful little a cappella pattern, do-do-do-do-do, ba, or do-do-do-do, ba. So let's take a look. Yeah, so in the final panel of this level, it's a sprint room. We want the feeling of speed and momentum to become stronger. So the music shifts into a ragtime style piano texture. And when Nikki touches the conveyor belts, they trigger a glissando. In this way, the piano performance starts to feel like a little improvised because part of its timing and energy is being shaped by the player's movement. And as we can see, take a look of this video, we can listen how this small interaction began to form a musical sentence. Touch the belt. Again. Yeah, the player is not only moving through the music, their movement is adding timing, energy, and a small sense of improvisation to it. Just like someone who is playing piano and dun 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 dun, bring is the triggers who touch the belt. Yeah. Later, in the Serpentine ruins in version 1.7, the question changed. Early in development, when we first saw the level, our reaction was almost immediate. Wow, this space is huge and beautiful. But in a space like that, if music only exists as a normal background track, it can start to feel too flat, we thought. So we began to ask another question. Can music itself have a sense of space? And not just like the kind of space we hear in a high-quality Western recording or in concert hall. In concert hall, the audience is sitting still, right? But in a game level, the player is moving. Their direction, distance, and relationship to the environment are constantly changing. So a fixed sense of musical space is not always enough to support that feeling of immersion. And that led us a very practical idea. If the player is moving, maybe the music should express something that moves as well. So in the Serpentine ruins, we try attaching short musical phrases to the trap dots. When that shoots across the level, the musical fly past. They hear a dangerous emotion fly past. So in that moment, music is doing two things at once. It gives the player gameplay emotion. Something dangerous has just crossed the space, and two, it also adds musical emotion to the environment. The sound does not sit behind the world, so it feels as it is growing out of the object itself. There are more details we can talk about later, but the important point here is that that was another step towards spatialized music as part of gameplay. Let's take a look. Yeah. These small experiments add up. In Timis Beauty Lab, we explored how player actions could help shape musical structure. In Serpentine Ruins, we explored how musical phrases could move through space together with gameplay objects. By the time we arrived at Box Theater in version 1.9, this idea was no longer separate experiments. Musical layering, spatial sound sources, interactive triggers, and a narrative internet all began to meet in one place. So the Box Theater was not an isolated breakthrough. It was a meeting point for ideas we had been building over time. With that, I'll hand over to our talented composer and music designer, Xu, who will take us inside the music and show how the dramatic structure was composed. Okay?
That's amazing. I love this idea of the small experiments that you put in place. You can very clearly hear the musical motifs that you're adding as layers and how you're positioning things leading up to the box theater. Thank you. That was very clear.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
Let's move on.
Okay, hello everyone, I'm Wang, the music designer and composer of the box theater level. And now I'd like to share the music design for it. The initial inspiration came from an immersive theater production called Sleep No More. And if you have seen it before, you probably know why it's so unique. The audience wear masks and freely move through different floors and rooms of an entire hotel. As you move into different rooms, you can see different performance. What you see and what you hear depends on where you choose to go. So it made us wonder, can we bring this feeling into our game? And can we combine it with the interactive music tools of Wwise and create a game version of an immersive musical? Okay. Based on that idea, we've set 3 design goals. For the first, music needs to carry dramatic storytelling and then need to respond to players' actions and plus need to have a real sense of space. That led us to another question. What is the biggest difference between game and live immersive theater? The answer was simple. Players can intervene. In the Sleep No More, audience can watch the performance, but they cannot change it. But in our box theater, however, the performers are also enemies. I mean that you could beat them. They can attack the players and the players can attack them back. That means their performance can be interrupted at any moment. So we realized that if the characters can be interrupted, the music should be interrupted too. So I separated the music into individual performer layers that could stop and resume at any time. Let's take a look. As you can see, when I attack him, he stops singing. So the players seem to hold an invisible button and directing everything like a conductor. Every action changes the music structure, and the music uses a repeated stop and restart effect. At first, it may sound slightly strange or absurd, but it actually works well with the concept of the controlled puppets. Okay, before we get into the specific music design, let me briefly introduce the story. Because the whole audio system was built around it. Long ago, the place was home to a successful and lively theater troupe. The old director and 4 performers continued to perform here until one day, a sudden fire changed everything. All 4 performers lost their lives. The loss broke the director, sorry. He did a desperate choice. He recreated them as puppets and forced them to perform their signature song again and again. Then he trapped them inside a suitcase. That's why it's called the box theater, a theater trapped inside a suitcase. So the players isn't entering a real place, but the director's endless obsession. Based on the story, the theater has 2 distinct phases. The first phase is the box theater as it originally was. The second is the theater after it's being overturned. And the full music system was built around these 2 states. Let's start with phase 1, the box theater in its original state. Our goal was very simple. Before feeling any danger, I wanted the players to feel like they were watching a performance. So I used a short 30-second track and let it loop over and over. Let's take a look.
但他你好，还怪好听的，太投入气。哎，兜兜转转一大圈，没有得到有用的信息啊！他们只顾着唱。
Actually, it's not the full composition, just the chorus of the performer's song. As players stay longer, they begin to notice that both the music and the performers keep repeating themselves, and the performers never respond to them. This short loop subtly suggests that these are not real performers. They are puppets trapped in an endless show. This is also the first spatial music experience in the level. Near the stage, a player can hear the mezzo-soprano, the baritone, and the violinist. These performers are localized 3-dimensional sound sources. They hear real positions in the space. At the same time, there is one hidden performer, the coloritura soprano. In phase 1, she is behind the stage and out of the player's view, but her voice is already present. She only becomes visible in phase 2. So instead of placing her in 3-dimension space, we kept her voice as a 2-dimension layer in the backing track and sent heavy reverb. As players move away from the stage, her voice begins to feel just like coming from somewhere deep inside the theater. Let's take a listen. Our goal was to make the theater feel real, at the same time suggesting that some voices didn't actually belong here, so you couldn't figure it out. Sorry. For arrangement, I mainly use pipe organ and a harpsichord. The music needs to feel vintage, spacious, and emotionally distant. Because the theater has been frozen for a very long time, this space is so large, but it feels almost lifeless. We wanted players to feel like they were watching a performance forever trapped in the past. Now let's see what happens when the theater is overturned. Once we enter phase 2, the overturned box theater, the whole audio experience changes. The stage breaks apart, the puppets leave the stage and start chasing the players. And after the performance for a while, they take one last bow and fade away. As you can hear, the NPC chase is driving the music changes. Musically, we kept the same theme from phase 1, but instead of a 30-second loop, it's a full version with variations. These orchestrations, however, takes a very different direction. The organ and the harpsichord is in phase 1 are replaced by a full big band. Normally, a chase or horror sequence would use darker music. This was also the original direction given by the game design team to create something slightly horror-leaning with special sound effects triggered when the puppets get close. But instead, I wanted to make the tragedy feel even more dramatic, rather than treat it as a horror story. We wanted the music to sound like a celebration that had already lost its soul, yet still refused to the end. This approach actually reflects the core idea behind the music design in Infinity Nikki. We are not just composing music, we are build the world that the music lives in. Now let's take a look at the composition side. The main challenge was players might meet one puppet or two puppets or all four at once. No matter the combination, the music still need to work musically. From the backing track only to a solo performance to all four layers together. Every state had to sound intentionally. To make that possible, we planned the relationships between every layer from the very beginning. The first approach was the traditional harmonic writing. I mainly used this between transitions from verse to the chorus. This gives the listeners a moment to rest between denser melodic sections. Let's take a listen. As you can hear, a single legato melody distributed across multiple voices. But if we only rely on harmony, the music would feel too flat. So I introduced a second layer of thinking. The second approach was call and response writing. I borrowed ideas from Baroque composition. For example, after the coloratura sings a phrase, the violin imitates it. As we can hear that when the coloratura da 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 da, the violin right away responds da 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 da. This is the call and response interaction, and this allows the listener's focus to move naturally between performers, almost like passing the ball in the music. The third approach was rhythmic contrast between voices. The mezzo and the baritones and the violin carry legato lines like da 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 da. And the coloratura functions very different. Instead of lyrics and she performs high staccato patterns like ha 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 ha. Let's take a listen. I think the style of the coloratura feels just like a puppet that can bring up the dramatic tension. The fourth approach was the mirrored melodic motion. During the verse, we designed ascending and descending chromatic movement between voices. For example, the coloratura and baritone move upwards.
Chaque note jouée dans une douce mélodie.
This is da 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 da. While the mezzo and violin move downward. Listen, da 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 da. This increases the interaction between layers. Sorry. Overall, I was basically write this immersive performance music like a symphony and or a jazz fugue. Now let's take a look at the final result. Okay, that's the music design behind the box theater level. This is actually a complex story. The boss fight comes right after the puppet chasing. Continuing the same emotional escalation, in the boss fight, the old director loses control and becomes the final enemy. And in the ending, Nikki leads the 4 performers in a final musical show, and everything comes to rest.
Figé dans l'éternité. Et si la musique pouvait encore s'envoler, là-haut nous pouvons tous chanter.
Les âmes seront unies à jamais. Laissons dans ce poste les bassets,
Chansons libérantes.
laissons le monde nous emporter vers l'avant. Nous allons porter parfait pouvoir de la musique. Nos âmes seront unies à jamais. Nos âmes seront unies à jamais.
Yeah, by the way, we can notice that Nikki sing not like a pro vocalist, right? Because we want to stay Nikki. She can't learn in several days, so we let her listen like not a pro vocalist.
Next, I'd like to invite our technical audio colleague, Junjun, to share how he made this happen.
Nice. Thank you, Wang. That was a fantastic description. And
Thank you very much.
I love the way that that you layered so many of these techniques together. It really reinforced this, small things that add up. It was so cool to see that come together, and I loved hearing your musical examples. Thank you.
By the way, again, you can see the both files, all the bullets is sync with the music. That's because all the bullets is driven by Wise beat. Yeah, beat from Wise.
Nice.
We use all Wise callback in the game. So I'm gonna share, and it's about the technical implementation and for the box theater, and it's all about in creative and spatialized music. Okay, so in a level like this, to make shoes music design, fantastic music design, right? Yeah, work. We have to solve one core challenge. How do we keep several fast-moving 3D sound sources logged to the 2D globe background music perfectly in sync, down to the very sample? We already shared the full solution on the Audiokinetic blog yet. So here, let me just give our quick recap. So put simply, we don't do anything extra to keep them in sync. We just make all of these music terms share one single playing ID. So the question becomes, if we are using one single playing ID, how do we split the different terms across different puppets so each one can be spatialized and attenuated on its own? Wise gives us a native solution, just a little setup in Wise ordering plus a runtime call, and it works. The call API sets multiple positions. Worth pointing out, this API actually has 2 different versions, 2 different overloads. The main difference, the first one lets you pass an extra AK channel mask inside the AK channel emitter struct. So each position can carry only certain channels of the source. In other words, we can freely decide what each position plays. The second one just makes every position carry all of the source channel. So to me, I think the second one is the simplified version of the first one. Yeah. And the Wise documents actually give a very straightforward example for us, a car playing stereo music through a pair of speakers. So picture this. the car has 2 speakers, yeah, and 2 emitters. Instead of dumping the whole stereo file out as one thing, we send the left channel of the source out of the left speaker and the right channel out of the right speaker. You can see it's at the bottom. The left waveform is feeding the red emitter on the left, and the right waveform is feeding the blue emitter on the right. The way you do this is set multiple positions. Overload that takes AK channel emitter. Each emitter carries an AK channel mask that says, oh, this position can only play the left input channel, or this can only play the right. So if the left and the right recording are different, the listener actually hears that difference in space. Left content coming from left of the car, content from the right is from the right waveform, all relative to where they are standing. And here's the beautiful part. This is still one playing ID driving all of it, so we never deal with sync at all. Yeah, that's how we deal with sync. Yeah, you know that. Because there is only one source playing, we have just taken the single source and split its sound making organ out into different corners in the space. Yeah, that's what we do. So the pockets in our box theater are really no different from those car speakers. All we do is just use set multiple position to handle each one's channel info. Up on screen, you can see our 4 puppets, and they are Renita, Melissa, Gina, and Jacob. Renita is a 7.1 file with just back left channel. Melissa was a quad with only side right. Gina was a normal file with only center, of course. And Jacob is a 4.0 quad with only side left. So after that, we import all of the stems of the puppets we just covered into Wwise, including the 2D accompaniment track and the special Renita track as our base layer, which is what we reserve for the front of the stage. Yeah. This special Renita is fixed to the wall in the game. For her track, we want the 3D specialization set to none, but with attenuation still enabled. So it works as a complement to the 2D background track. That's why the 2D track and the special Renita track together take up the front left and front right channel. That's exactly why the other characters we just talked about get assigned to center, side left, side right, and back left channel. And it's worth mentioning, we actually could have organized all of the audio contents with a single 7.1 music track. But since we need to do some extra per track control at runtime, splitting into multiple music track is just more convenient for us. On the game runtime side, we added one variable music channel mask to the puppet's base class. Then we filled in the channel config on each actor subclass. For example, Renita's config is AK speaker back left. We made a box theater music manager to handle all the music logic and place it in the level. First, we listen to each actor's begin and end play and add or remove its game instance from the manager at that moment. On our timer, we collect the catch, the actor position, and the channel mask and feed them into set multiple position. Finally, when an actor gets hits or freeze like this and this, then maybe recovers, we call set multiple position again and again to dynamically remove or re-add its 3D track. And that's it. We are done. Yeah, you can really see how Wwise set multiple position makes all of this incredibly simple. And we use it all over the place in our game. that's just how we do things. Next up, Roger is going to talk about how we have accumulated those solutions we have today. And his topic will be from one-off solution to long-term capability. So let's welcome Roger.
Roger, and thank you, Junjun. That was great to get the technical details behind multiple position and channel masking. Great solution. And it sounded so natural when you were playing through the gameplay footage. It was really clear how you were supporting the gameplay with this feature. Thank you.
Okay, me again.
All right, Roger.
Thanks. Yeah, that was fantastic, right? Let's zoom back out. What I love about this example is that it is not built around the one clever trick. It is built from ideas that accumulated, connected, and become a creative capability. We do not treat technology as disposable. Once a solution has been proven, it entered our creative audio toolkit. Later, we can recombine it, scale it up, or transform it into something completely different. That is how a one-off experiment becomes a long-term creative capability. And in version 2.0, we expanded what we had learned about the spatialized music from a controlled theatrical setting into the open world of Spiral. A theater is enclosed, controlled, and designed for drama, and a Spiral is different. It is an open world region where players can move freely, approach from any direction, and leave at any time. So we had to ask a new question. How can spatialized music serve an entire community rather than a single scene? How can it feel like a part of daily life instead of an event that only starts when the player arrives? With that in mind, we explored ways to weave the shimmering music into the environmental music of the scene. Players would still hear the overall music of the area, but the music coming from the shimmering's daily lives would blend into it naturally. Yeah, for example, it could be a shimmering scene along a small performance at a party or someone playing music at home. These moments are not staged only for the player. They feel like sounds that already belong to this community. Let's take a look.
こうばしゃ
If someone play music inside his house. It's that time. Yeah, by the way, it's all designed by our greatest music designer, Iris Xiao. And there's also a small musical detail here that we really love. We imagine that the Shumering loved both water and music. Maybe one rainy day, while playing a handpan by the water, a Shumering suddenly had an idea. What if we let the water play the handpan too? So we placed a handpan beneath the dripping water and let each drop fall in its own time. A tiny corner of the world become a random performance created by nature. It's a small detail, but it says a lot about how we want this world to feel playful, musical, and alive. Yeah, and pen. Water drop. Yeah. And in version 2.2, Traumatic Being Ever Bright, we explored the same principles through Chinese opera, or we call it 戏曲. We did not want to use 戏曲 only as a decoration. We asked how its dramatic logic could shape the structure of the story and the player emotional journey. The story moves through changing rules and illusions and many phases of life. At its heart, it asks two simple questions: what makes a life feel real, and how does each life find a color of its own? We built a score around two concentrating voices. The first is Chinese operatic singing, led by the renowned vocalist Gong Lingna. Her performance carries the many faces and the transformation of the world. And second is children's song, performed by the children choir from Hulu Voice Music. Their voices carry innocence, sincerity, and the character honest question. These two voices guide the story through three stages. First, player can hear qingqiang-inspired opening on a Chinese-style parrot flute. By the way, qingqiang is one kind of our 戏曲. Yeah, and in the middle, a shadow puppet sequence gradually become a musical call and response. The children ask questions and connect one theatrical scene to the next, while the operatic female voice responds through different Chinese opera style. At the climax, Nikki breaks through the song, and the operatic female voice seems to open the entire world through sound. What we wanted to create is a feeling of a Chinese opera-inspired musical suite running throughout the narrative experience of this version. It should feel as if players are watching one theatrical act after another, with the music served as a continuous thread that connects them all. The full sequence is quite long, so let's watch a short edit and feel how the arc develops. For us, the important thing was not simply to quote a musical style, it was to let its dramatic logic shape the player's journey. Stage.
起舞蹈，永夜之下。
really amazing, right? So
Fantastic.
you love it?
Yeah, I love it.
Amazing vocalist Gong Lin. And this evolution also created a new design tension. Open world music has to remain comfortable over a long period of exploration. Story sequences need tighter timing and a stronger direction, and a more precise dramatic control. Those two requirements can pull in opposite directions. These are indeed some excellent examples out there. Zelda, for instance. But in future versions, we'll keep exploring our own answer to that problem. And for now, Xu will show us a few concrete examples of how we approach this balance. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Roger. And next, I'd like to share another level, the dream of Mothershroom. And the first challenge was about making a design choice. When should music take the spotlight and when should it step back? Because this level contains two very different kinds of experience. Some parts are highly gameplay driven and work well with interactive music, and other areas are visually beautiful and encourage the players to slow down and take pictures and enjoy. So I started with, if I wanted the final scenes to be the emotional high point, how could we keep the music from taking too much attention before players got there? Sometimes the most powerful moment comes from knowing when to let the music step back. So in the first half, I intentionally reduced the thematic presence and focused on atmosphere-driven music. Even though the music feels subtle and it's reacting to players' behavior, it's an interactive music system with subtle guidance. Now let me briefly explain the gameplay mechanic. As players remain in this area, they gradually become dizzy. The only way to recover is to activate mushrooms and stand inside their green safe zones. That led us, if the player's dizziness level keeps changing, why not let the music change with it? So the whole music system was driven by the player's dizziness level. Based on this, I divided the music into 4 stages. One important thing is that all 4 stages share the exactly same structure. The melody, the harmony, and the section structure remain unchanged, but actually changes are the orchestration and the musical parameters. I introduced several changes to the music, including adding arpeggios, increasing the music BPM, applying stereo pan movement, and using popping effects. Now let's take a look at what changes in each stage. In the stage 1 is when the player is inside the safe zones. The music feels stable and relaxed. And in the stage 2, begin as players starting to become dizzy. I built on stage 1 by adding an arpeggio layer, slightly increasing the BPM, and introducing subtle stereo panning movement. The music starts to feel slightly unstable. But you can hear the change remains subtle and controlled. And in stage 3, players experience deeper dizziness. The BPM gradually increases and the stereo movements are more obvious, and I add a gentle popping effect. Let's listen. At this moment, players begin to feel uncomfortable. Finally, in the stage 4, I pushes all of those changes even further. The tempo becomes faster and the spatial movement and the popping effect become more pronounced. As you hear, the overall experience starts to feel unstable and out of control. When you compare the 4 stages, you can clearly hear how the music gradually evolves. By the 4th stage, the BPM is already 1.5 times faster than in the 1st stage. To make seamless transitions between these 4 in the Wwise, we first place the custom cues with the same name at the corresponding bar positions in each music system segment, like the picture. Then we simply enabled match source cue name. Based on the player's dizziness level, we use next custom cue to jump to the matching position in the next stage. Players don't feel like the music is switching. And it feels more like the music itself is slowly becoming corrupted. Let's take a listen. Of course, changing the music alone wasn't enough. In addition, we worked closely with our sound design team to apply the same global EQ processing across the music and the sound effects and the voice. And as the player's dizziness level increases, a global RTPC drives the whole audio mix. Everything all respond together. The sound effects such as collecting coins, footsteps in water, and attacks, as well as dialogue become increasingly low-pass filtered. We want to create the real dizzy feeling, just like slowing, sinking on the water. Let's listen to the results. Okay, at this point, players have spent quite a while under the dizzy states. Now we have arrived at the most beautiful scene in the level. And that's where the music is finally allowed to take center stage.
This is incredible. The mushroom is huge. Let's check it out.
Nikki, the giant mushroom is flying up. Be careful not to fall.
I see. It's the Mothershroom escorting us out of the dream.
Okay, by the way, the camera transition before the chorus is also triggered by a custom cue. We wanted the chorus to hit at exactly the right moment. Once the camera changes, the mushroom rise faster and the lighting shifts, so the music and the visuals reach their climax together.
Yeah, by the way, the lyrics in the song is our fictional language for submarines, right?
This is incredible.
After Dream of Mothershroom, I'd like to move on to another level, Serpent Rings. The first challenge in this level was actually very straightforward. How do we make players feel the presence of Serpent through sound? The solution was to create an original vocal language we call the Serpent language. As a sound reference, our inspiration is from how snakes are represented in films and musics. For example, whisper with breathy, raspy textures as if sound were right next to your ear. In the end, we built the language mainly around s or sh or sound. It's just like like this. And it doesn't sound like a real language. It still feel music because in the end, it became an instrument in the arrangement. Let's take a listen. Okay, when we move into the second phase of the level, our original plan was actually very simple. We planned to play a full Serpent language composition as background music, like this. But as we learned more about the story, we discovered an important detail. The blue tears floating on the water are actually the tears of the serpent, as you can see in the picture. They are actually the serpent's lingering regret that made us rethink how the sound should communicate emotion. If the players heard the full Serpent language immediately, the motion would feel too obvious and immediate. So we decided to split the music into 2 layers. The first layer is instrument only. Let's take a listen. And the second is a Serpent language layer that carries emotional meaning. Same as the box theater, we used set multiple positions to assign the Serpent language voice to the right positions in the space. Players only begin to hear the Serpent language when they move closer to the blue tears. We treat it as a hidden emotional reward. The audio is no longer just background. It becomes a reward for exploration, almost like discovering a hidden Easter egg. It makes the player feel that by getting closer, they can hear the serpent's hidden emotion. Let's take a listen. Besides the Serpent language that was integrated into the music, we also created a lighter, more hidden layer of audio. We took some of the in-game lyrics and the voice lines of the Serpent, re-recorded them in a whisper-like style, and placed them in another blue tier area. These sounds are not meant to fully enter conscious attention, but when players stand in the water, they begin to hear the faint murmurs underneath the ambience. We wanted it to feel like a trace of consciousness left inside the rings. Finally, let's take a look. Okay.
Yeah, so if we look back across all of the examples we shared today, we can see a pretty clear evolution. At the beginning, it might have started as a small experiment in splitting musical layers, and then it evolved into spatial music phrases. Later, it becomes something larger, a fully spatialized musical theater experience like box theater. And eventually, those ideas expanded into larger open world spaces. Looking back, we realize most of this design didn't begin with very clear answer. Most of the time, we simply start with a question: if music is not just background, what else can it become? Can it become space, emotion, or storytelling? Or can it become part of the play interaction? Those experiments gradually become the direction of our team continues to explore. And by listening to these examples, one thing should be clear: we genuinely enjoy this kind of work. And we enjoy it because there's a very strong seed flame built into the DNA of this team. It reminds me a documentary I really love, Jodorowsky's Dune. What moves me in that film is its pursuit of radical imagination, its desire to open up new worlds, and the sheer force of its artistic vision to me. That is a powerful kind of sea flame. And I mentioned these to Damien before, and we can take a look at Damien's t-shirt. He's wearing one of the greatest movie from Jodorowsky. Yeah.
I'm thankful.
Okay, let's
I'm
move
thankful
on.
for you to bring this inspiration to your project. It's it very clearly represented in what you do.
Yeah. And the moments we value most are often exactly those moments when a creative idea and technical system meet and make each other more interesting. They do not just solve problems, they open up one new world after another, one new vision after another. Yeah, that's a movie.
Yeah, Jodorowsky's Dune. It's great.
Yes. And but in a live service production pipeline, the system can easily start rewarding only what is predictable. So one thing we work hard is to protect is curiosity. We want technology to make experimentation faster and safer without making the result repetitive. Players may hear only the tip of the iceberg. Underneath it, we need a line on the design logic, the vision of each version, and the core emotional idea we want to bring to players. Players may never name the technique, but they can feel when the world is coherent, detailed, and made with care. Every version brings a new theme, a new story, and a new gameplay needs. We want to deliver efficiently without losing imagination, detail, or surprise. So we keep asking ourselves 4 practical questions. Does this version have a sonic identity of its own? Does this level leave players with one sound they will remember? Is the interaction actually helping the story? Can the system support ideas we have not imagined yet? And above all, does sound let players do more than hear the experience? Does it let them step into it? We won't find the perfect answer every time, but these questions keep us honest. They remind us to treat sound not as filler and not as a feature added at the end, but as a part of its world itself. Of course, imagination alone is not enough. To sustain this level of creative density in a monthly update cycle, we also need a reliable technical foundation and a mature tool chain. Open world ambience has to respond to a changing environment and constant content updates. That requires system combining offline processing with runtime behavior. Interactive music has to support triggers, layers, state changes, and spatial behavior. And Infinity Nikki has a huge range of outfits and materials. To make those differences audible, we need a large Foley library, automated setup, and a fast validation. Monthly update also means that audio assets are changing all the time. If every edit requires a long build and package process, creative iteration disappears. So hot reload, runtime preview, and automated pipelines are not just conveniences. They protect the time we need to listen, adjust, and try it again. This may sound like engineer problems, but every one of them protects a creative choice. They determine how quickly a sound idea can test it and whether it can survive release pressure while still landing the way we intended. So now I'll hand it over to great Junjun. He'll show how these systems work in practice and how they help us keep exploring sonic storytelling at the scale and pace of a live service game. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Roger, for pulling the focus to that high level and giving an overview in this moment. Do we need to take a station break at all, or are you ready to push through this final piece?
Yeah, sure. Final part all Junjun, so maybe we can take a little
break for the
Okay.
audience and ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5-minute break. We'll take a moment and return with Junjun. He's going to carry us through some technical pieces of the systems behind Infinity Nikki. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We are here for Infinity Nikki, and I'm handing it off to Junjun. Let's go!
So quick. Thank you for Damien to have this break, and I'm a little bit nervous, so I have to. I drink too much water, and I have to go to the bathroom. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
And thank you, Roger, to call me great. I think the reason why Roger is great is that he always tell other great. Yeah, he's a great audio director, a great boss. Yeah, thank you, Roger. And besides interactive music, Infinity Nikki has a lot of other audio system too. Since we are a live service game, this audio system gets updated every version, and they also speed up our work each version. We have so many brilliant audio designers like Wang, like Roger. They have so many brilliant ideas. This system can bring these ideas to life. So today, we want to share a few of them with you. The first one is our procedural ambient system. In our code, we just call it SoundSeed system. And inside it, we use a lot of wise building features. Honestly, they save our lives. Some of you may feel this name sounds familiar. Is that familiar, Damien?
Yeah, familiar to me. I know about SoundSeed.
Yeah, to be honest, there is a little selfish wish from us as audio people. We are paying tribute to two things, the amazing white SoundSeed plugins and the SoundSeed system that Massive Entertainment shared at GDC years ago. Both are great and both shape how we think about ambience. Come on, for audio people, the name is just too cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the white SoundSeed plugin family. It gives us so much inspiration. And this is the SoundSeed system talk from Massive Entertainment. Honestly, we never thought about any other name because this one fits our system so well. Being able to say thank you to the people and the tech we look up to right inside our game code, it makes our team really exciting. Okay, all right, I will be honest up front. This is a pretty huge system, so the section runs a little long. To make it easier to follow, I have split into 4 parts. Let me quickly walk you through them first. Part 1, background and challenges. Why we build it and the difficulty we face. Part 2 is offline baking. How we pull all kind of ambience data out of these huge complex things completely offline. Part 3 is data storage and streaming. How we store this massive amount of point data efficiently and stream it smoothly across the open world. And part 4 is runtime and configuration. How the runtime turns all that data into actual wise playback with the playback modes and the data-driven config that our audio designers control. So now let me talk about where we were back then. We had only 1 month left before launch, and we had to place tons of 3D ambient points from zero: water, birds in the tree, insects in the bushes, and the rustle when the players run through grass. What made it worse, at that time, our C++ was fully code locked because we have to launch. So we had zero access to the low-level code. We could only build this big system with scripting, Lua, and Unreal blueprints. This pushed us into a corner. We had to solve 2 big problems. First, offline baking. Infinity Nikki's thing and are super complex, and the map is very huge. There's no way to place things by hand. We needed an automatic way to bake all these ambient points into data offline and string them smoothly in the open world. Secondly, runtime playback. Once the data loads into memory, we need a very light runtime logic to turn this huge data into real-wise playback rules and keep the performance under control. Yeah. So let's start with how we baked water offline. Our water has 3 types: waterfalls, rivers, and lakes. Rivers and lakes are made in many different ways. For example, some water is just a giant plan pushed into the ground. But for audio, the exact water age really matters, you know. So because we want accurate and 3D water sound. Let's see how different these water bodies can be. So you can tell from this picture that the water only looks round. Underneath is really just a square plane, right? But we need the audio to be round. Here's the biggest lake in the game, and just like before, it's really one giant plane. It's 1 kilometer plane. A lot of that plane is buried underneath the terrain, so you will never see it. What we care about is the visible shoreline of the lake, right? So here's our river. You can see the shape gets really complex. So here, the old manual way using splines or audio volumes was just not an option for us at that time. This is a huge open world with crazy number of water bodies. We had no manpower to place all these actors by hand. Luckily, Wise has set multiple positions, so we can pick a fixed spacing, even cover the water surface with many position points and spatialize all of them. This gives us a very accurate sense of direction of this water. Thank you, Damien. And the idea sounds nice, but here's the key question. If we can't place by hand, how do we automatically add accurate pull these huge amounts of water data out of these complex things? Actually, the answer was planted years ago. And here, let me be a little selfish again and use this chance to say a big thank you to the Wise community. A few years ago, when I was still an undergraduate student, I watched Sucker Punch's classic talk at Wise Tour Online 2020, Sound as Storytelling, Ghost of Tsushima. And back then, I really gotten interested in the sound design of Ghost of Tsushima. So later on, I also checked out their GDC talk 2021, Big World, Small Team, Designing a Scalable Ambient System for Ghost of Tsushima. They explain how they use offline baking to take huge scene geometry into very light ambient data. For me back then, that idea, do the heavy data work offline and save the best performance for runtime, really blew my mind. It totally changed how I see audio development and had a big influence on my career. Thank you. So when I got stuck on this how to extract the data problem in Infinity Nikki, that old talk instantly woke us up. Standing on the shoulders of giants, we decided to build our own offline scanning and baking tools made for Infinity Nikki's complex level pipeline. So first, let's watch our offline water detection video. So the clip shows the way we get the river and the rather small lake audio data out of the scene. So let's get started. You can see some purple boxes and show exactly where the water surface is. It's like this. So every surface is baked into the disk. Okay, so how did we actually do it? Since we built a tool ourselves, our idea is actually very simple, offline recasting. We do a top-down scan from above the scene, and from that, we get very precise word shapes. Step 1, out of tons of actors in the scenes, we need to find out the water. To do this, we look at the GAN's collision presets. If an actor's material instance comes from our master water material, or its collision preset is water, then we treat it as actual water. Sure, the rules must be changed from project to project, but come on, you can always find some way to tell what is water, right? So after we lock the target, we sort the water into 3 types: waterfall, river, and lake, and the sea is some kind of lake in our game. So based on its material instance, of course, open world always has some special cases. So we also added a few special rule based on material instance and exercise to handle some custom so special cases. By the end of this step, every water bodies in the world gets a type ID, which maps to a specific Wise event and a playback rule. Okay. Next is the key optimization. To make baking much faster, we have to be very careful about the number of rays, even if it's all offline. So only inside the bounds of a valid water actor, we lay an even grid along X and Y 1 meter apart and shoot them down. So let's play the video. And in the video, the right line is our recast debug. You can see that. And they are laid out uniformly across the actor's bounds, 1 meter apart, X and Y. Yeah. So during the recast, if a ray hits something that isn't water, we just ignore it. If it hits water, we take that hit point and write it straight to the desk. So after the video, every water data is in the desk already. But here's a fun detail we ran into. If there is a bridge or a wooden deck above the water, a normal ray gets blocked, right? And the area under the bridge becomes a weird silent dead zone. To fix this, we had a penetration check. Once a ray hits a bridge or a deck, it shoots a second ray and keeps going down. So the water sound under the bridge is captured too. So besides going down through bridges, the horizontal shoreline where water meets land is also data we really care about. For water that needs a short transition, here's what we do. When the top-down rays hit the water, we use that point as a center and do a short-range collision check. And if the collision hits a non-water actor nearby, we mark this point as a shore. We also read the physical material of what we hit so we can pick different shore sound IDs. For example, water on Mars and water on rock sound totally different. This way, the edge and the center of the water blend together very naturally. As you swing from shore to the center, the splashing at the edge fades out smoothly and the other way around too. So, and nowadays, I think audio volume or Sublime is very common and a very mature way to do the water sound in the game audio industry. So, and people know that the workflow at runtime, you have to check if the listener is inside the area and keep updating the nearest point, or you can drive an ambience. You can use a wide spatial audio room to do this, and so on. But with wide set multiple positions, we found the whole thing can be much simpler. Right? We don't need to write any code for inside-out switching or following. We just hand all the points to the Wise at once. As long as we give enough points, Wise handle the spatialization and fade out for us very naturally. This removes a lot of boring logic and makes the runtime code much simpler. So here's a video of how we bake our lake data. So let's check. And the purple boxes are the lake's water surface. And you can see the yellow boxes for a while. Wait a moment. You can see the yellow boxes are the shoreline. So it's pretty precise. Yeah, and everything is baked.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it's a long video. Wait a moment. So here will be another shoreline. Yeah. Okay. So after we get this high precision data, we have accurate 3D points, right? And each point also carries water type ID. But here we hit a performance wall. 1 meter grid just too dense. If we throw tens of thousands of points straight into AK position array, set multiple position will definitely tell us an error from too many points. And honestly, for a broader ambience like water, our airs don't need that much tiny detail anyway. So we added a voxelization downsampling step. We group water point with the same ID into 8 meter cubes. Then we take the average position, the center of all points in each cube, and use that point as the final position. Finally, we bake this smaller data back into the engine. There's almost no difference to our ears, but it cuts the data down a lot. That is what makes it possible to set multiple position across a huge and open world to place tons of water. So here's how the water sound at runtime. Let's play the video. And we start with solo the water surface first. Okay, and sound like that. It's only surface. And we get everything back. You can clearly hear the waves hitting the rocks and the sand. Yeah, and each matching the art style. Yeah, and the water hit the sand and the water hit the rocks is totally different in this video. Okay, water is done. Now let's look at another nightmare of open water ambience. Tons of foliage, grass, and bushes all over the hill. And the main mission I should do is find a way to play a rustle sound when a player goes through the bushes. Okay, as an audio designer, you will naturally think a blade of grass in the scene is its own object. When the player walks over it will be trigger a begin overlap. The engine sends us an event, and we post a switch sound, very reasonable, right? But in a big world like Infinity Nikki, this path is usually blocked. We simply have no place to attach audio and no trigger moment. Why? There are 3 very real and low-level reasons. First, foliage is just a random trick in Infinity Nikki. To save a lot of draw costs, Unreal does not really spawn hundreds of thousands of separate grass or bushes actors. It uses HISM, hierarchical instanced static meshes. Basically, the engine just copies and draws the same grass or bushes model 100,000 times very efficiently. To the engine, it's one big component, not 100,000 separate objects. Second, the physical engine just can't take it. Since it's one big component, why not compute collision for each grass? Because the cost is very scary. If we give 100,000 grass instance their own collision, the physical engine blows up during sync queries. So foliage collision is just turned off. Third, there is no per instance collision callback. Even if we ignore performance and force collision, HRSM does not support a begin overlap for single grass. At best, the engine knows, oh, this big grass component was touched, but it will never tell us grass number like 89,757 was stepped down. So the audio system has nowhere to post event. And I know that nowadays many projects do the art band with like fluid simulation on bushes, and that's the same kind of problems here. At this point, many audio people ask a great question. Wait, but when the player runs through the grass clearly bends away from them, right? So the engine must know the player touches. Why doesn't it tell audio? Yeah, well, that's spending the art team made is actually shader magic on GPU. It just passes the player's position into grass material, and the material pushes the grass vertices out a bit based on distance or the position offset. It's purely an efficient visually trick. But our audio logic runs on GPU. This vertex movement on the CPU will never report anything back on the GPU. If you want a read back, it costs a lot of usage. In other words, the grass looks stepped it on, but in the logic layer, it's like air. It just isn't there. Okay, long explanation.
That's great explanation. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So since the runtime path is fully blocked, we look at the offline side again. If we can bake all the foliage ahead of time, the runtime playback becomes easy, rather a little bit easier. In V1, the first version of our SoundSeed system, we keep it simple. Even though we can't get collision, the transform, like position, orientation, scale of each foliage instance is still public. Back then, the foliage shapes were pretty simple, mostly close to a sphere. So to save data, we crudely reduce each plant space info into two basic values, a center point and a radius. In the early days, this sphere approach was great, but as a live service game, later big updates brought huge new maps and much weirder foliage. At that point, center plus radius just couldn't describe those strange, irregular giant plants anymore. The edge interaction started to feel much less accurate. So, in a recent update, we dropped the sphere model and brought in a tougher 3D voxel scanning system, which shares the same idea as our water scanning. Our approach is very direct. Since you can't turn on collision at runtime, then in the editor, fully offline, I force collision on for all foliage for a short moment. Then inside each plant's bound, we use a 50 centimeter voxel as the smallest unit and do a full 3D collision scan around it. You can see the image here. Now, even though that is a full 3D collision scan, you will notice most of foliage ends up with just a single layer of voxel, right? That's on purpose. We optimize along the z-axis around our main character Nikki's height. X and Y stay at full 50 centimeter voxels, but we split the z-axis by Nikki's height instead of scanning evenly upward. So we keep only the layer she walks through. That also save a lot of unnecessary point data. Okay. With this offline 3D scan, we can carve a complex plant back into the voxel data with accurate shape and age info. So no matter how wild our team makes the foliage in our audio system, it has a very precise digital twin. Okay, so you can see how the foliage baking looks like in the open world. There are massive foliage audio data points here. And look at this image, even at a tiny level, you can see the foliage ages are very clear, right? Okay. Now that all the offline data is baked and ready, the key question is how do we store this huge data nicely and string it smoothly across this giant open world? Actually, this streaming pipeline also rebuilt from V1 to V2 as the project grew. Today, let me first talk about the V1 version that we launched with. Let me drink something. Okay. Like I said, the project was under strict C++ code lock back then. So we couldn't write any low-level streaming manager, right? We had to do everything with Blueprint and Lua. Since we couldn't build our own wheel, our plan is to borrow. Our project is built on Unreal's native word composition streaming we know that word composition can auto-calculate the level bounds from the actor's position and the scale in streaming sublevel, right? We just assign a streaming layer that which means sets load distance, and when the player gets close enough, the engine loads the level into memory by itself. Okay, this is the word composition editor view, so you can see how the level bounds are spread out. And every little cell you can see is the level bound of our level audio in V1 when the day we launch. Yeah, like this. And that is the streaming layer config where we set the load distance. We set all the load distance to 70 meters at that time. So how do we attach our ambience data to these levels? We made a custom blueprint class called BP SoundSeed Actor. All the baked points go into a variable called SoundSeeds inside this blueprint. And it's streaming and streaming out together with the level. Okay. This next data design is an extreme optimization we did in V1 to fight the memory pressure. This SoundSeed variable isn't a simple array. It's a deeply nested byte map. The key is a single byte, which maps to the SoundSeed ID we set offline, like a specific water or foliage type, and map to a specific Wise event. And the value is where the real extreme compression shows. It's not a bunch of expensive floats holding real-world coordinates. Instead, it's an XYZ array made of bytes. Why bytes? Because bytes is only 0 to 255. Absolute coordinates will never fit. So we turned all the baked coordinates into a local offset relative to the BP SoundSeed actor instant itself in the streaming level. Okay, with the extreme coordinate trick, even without touching a single line of C++, we use plain blueprint variable to squeeze the memory of this huge point data down to the minimum. So the best part, because we fully reused Unreal's level system, this compressed data streaming and out very naturally as the player explores without writing any code. Okay. So V1 looks pretty clever already. So why did we need V2? So actually, V1 have served Infinity Nikki for almost a whole year, right? From version 1.0 to 1.11, across 12 small DLC. Yeah, we have 12 small DLCs a year. It was really handy, but as our live development went on, some small problems showed up. The first problem is rely too much on the engine's level loading. Its benefits are, but it also has some limitation. As you know, beside the open world, there are some independent level like Wang, like Roger mentioned beforehand in this talk. And this usually load all the actors at once with no distance streaming. You just can't open the distance streaming, you know. So the moment the player enters, hundreds of BP SoundSeed actors and tens of thousands of water and foliage points flood into memory together. Even though we wrote some simple distance cooling based on the actor's location, but just figuring out which actor should play actually put real pressure on our CPU. Sorry, the PowerPoint got some issue. Oh, the next one. Okay, the second problem, the low-level checking costs got out of control. In Unreal, the engine calls update streaming states every frame. It draws a sphere around the player and tests it against the bounding box of every streaming level. So during the big 2.0 update, we have some new open world and some other open world region. Our map size exploded. To fit all the audio new audio data, even though we packed it into a very big 128 meters level. It's that huge, okay? The number of audio streaming levels still crazily past 10,000, and this is not very cheap. The third problem, the data structure was just too limited because our design is for multiple position. Remember the offline foliage V2 I mentioned before. To match the collision of irregular foliage, we have to use 3D voxel baking, and the memory saving V1 byte map just didn't fit anymore. And finally, the most painful one, the baking time. In the V1 days, writing data back to the level leans heavily on Unreal Python API. Create level, spawn SoundSeed actor, write nested variable, and as the 2.0 data exploded, this got slower and slower, and every rebake become painfully long. I usually click the bake and watch some YouTube video for the whole afternoon. But Roger has no problem with that, right? So I'd like to introduce our V2 data storage, and this cancel my YouTube afternoon. At V2 scale, tens of millions of points, the obvious approach would be a big array with XYZ and ID per point. But that's what is hundreds of megabits and just choke the system. Instead, we let the grid cell itself encode the position and only store one ID per cell. So it stays tiny. And luckily, at 2.0, we finally got to move this into C++. So we designed the V2's code container for SoundSeed data to fully fix V1's performance and the structure problem. In V2, we wrote a very light, very fast container in pure C++. Before we dig into the compression magic, let me show you its core structure, the header file. At a high level, it's basically a very specialized 2D spatial hash map. The interface it gives us is very clean. No matter how an outside system like the streaming manager or blueprints calls it, what they get back is always a clear X6. X6 is our project number. X6 SoundSeed info struct, which simply holds a 3D position and an ambient type ID. But under the friendly interface is the big trade-off we made for performance. At the very bottom, in the private part, we only really store data in two kinds of data. One is the main table called data, and the other is the conflict table called overlapping data. Okay, so look at their key. We made a custom type in60 vector 2 as the lookup key. So at the low level, we fully dropped the idea of 3D space because the world is rather flat, and flatten into a 2D grid of two 60-bit integers x and y. So why force 3D data into 2D table? Where did the z height go? Where did the foliage and the water IDs go? This is the coolest trick in this design, extremely bit packaging plus 2-level storage. The first step is extreme bit packaging. We shrink the x and y down to int60 and join them into one int60 vector 2 as our key. What about z height and the ID? Here we play a little bit geeky trick. We use just one int62 as a value. Inside it, the low 60 bits hold the z height, and the high 60 bits hold the SoundSeed ID. Every read or write just need a simple bit shift and a bitwise end to decode instantly. No struct cost at all. Super clean. But here we hit a tricky edge case, vertical overlapping. In an open world, you will definitely get a bridge over a water with a puddle on the bridge or water over a deep pool. This means at the same x and y, there can be two ambient points at totally different heights. And also we have 3D foliage check as mentioned before. What's the obvious fix? Easy. Makes the value an array and stop all the conflicting points in, but we said not to do this because in a real thing, 99% of grids have only one type of points. If we force every value to be an array just for that 1%, the cost of allocating dynamic arrays everywhere would be a scary waste. So here comes the second optimization we are proud of. -1 marker plus 2-level map. We actually have two maps, the main table data, which only stores single points, and the conflict table, overlapping data, which stores array. When we write data, if the X, Y cell is empty, we write straight to the main table. If a conflict happens, we change the main table's value as that X, Y to -1. That's our invalid marker, right? That's some invalid constant in Wise. Then we move both the old data and the new conflicting data into the conflict table. Here's the right logic. If the slot already holds the marker, we just add to the conflict table. If it's the first conflict, we move the old data into the conflict table, add the new one, and write the -1 marker back to the main table. And if the slot is empty, we write straight to the main table. Yeah, that's all. And at runtime, the lookup is super smooth. We check the main table, got a normal value, decode it and play. Got a -1, the system instantly know there's an overlap issue here, so it jumps to the conflict table and pulls out the multiple points. So with this classic space trick, we got a super fast lookup and a tiny memory for 99% of points, and we still handle the tricky vertical overlap cases perfectly. This is the kind of low-level data foundation that really fits an open world. Okay, now we have the highly compressed X6 SoundSeed data container. The next question is, how do we get rid of those 10,000 plus heavy streaming level from V1 and string the data out in the lightest way? Our answer is very direct. Write our own simple 2D grid streaming. Take a look at this screenshot. It's a real data folder from our project. On this, we set a very strict rule. The outer number folder, like 1010202, is the big level ID. The inner folder, like bush or water, are the ambient types. The real magic is how these data files on the right are named. Look closely. SoundSeed data -161, SoundSeed data -84, and so on. We just baked the 2D grid coordinates, the X and Y index in the real world straight into the file name. So with the neat file structure, our runtime loading become very, very simple. It's just some math plus path joining. At runtime, we don't do any complex space checks, just 3 line steps. Step 1, take the player's current XY, divide by our grid size, and instantly get the player's current grid index. Step 2, log the night grid. We say ambient streaming only cares about the area around the player. So with the player's grid in the center, we just go out 1 ring and cover this 3x3 area, 9 target cells. Step 3, we build the file paths for this night grid writing code. The level ID path / the type name / SoundSeed _ target X _ target Y. After building the path, if the file exists on disk, we hand it to the logic to load asynchronously. If it doesn't exist, meaning that the area has no water or foliage or anything else, we just skip it. And that's it. Just with index mass and path joining, we get a very efficient 9-grid streaming and fully drop the heavy weights of traditional level loading. Okay, now we have loaded the ambient data into memory, right? With very simple 9-grid logic. At this point, memory optimization folks would ask, since the data is in, how do you do runtime distance calling? How do you decide out of these few hundred points which one should play and which shouldn't? Our answer might surprise you a little bit. We don't call at all. Every loaded point will be used. Why do we dare to do this? Because in our design, the real calling already happened earlier at the streaming stage. Since the C++ layer already hands us the 9-grid data with no calling needed, how does the system know how to play it? Take a look at this image. This is the brain of our SoundSeed system, one central data mapping table. Remember the ID we packed into the high 60 bits of the int632 during baking. It's mapped to the leftmost ID column in this table. And with the table, the audio designer fully control playback. They can freely attach AK events to each ambient type and pick its playback mode. Right now, our system has mainly 3 playback modes. The first one is multi-positions. Look at the table. The word bodies like small lakes, big lake, river, waterfall, they all use it. The logic is very direct. When a batch of points loads, we make a very light proxy actor at the center and post the event. Whenever the player moves and the points gets added or removed it in the 9-grid, we immediately send the latest position array to it and call Wise native set multiple position in multi-direction modes. And multi-sources work the same way too. Whether it's a long coastline or a winding stream, Wise smoothly handles the panning and the spatial spread of all these points for us. Yeah, this is the first one. And the second one is collision source, our second most used mode, mainly for foliage rustle, as I mentioned before. The one setup here is the interesting part. We never fire one shot when you brush against a plant. Instead, the first time you actually step into a patch of foliage, we spawn a single emitter and post a looping rustle event on it. So its volume isn't driven by distance at all. Every frame we read the player speed, the velocity, and map its live to a Y-scan parameter. The faster you move, the louder the rustle. The instant you stop, the RTPC pulls it right back to the silence. And here's the trick. The emitter is pinned to player, not to plants. So no matter how you jump, dash, or wave through the bushes, you are never spawning a voice per plant. There are only ever a handful of voices underneath, one per rustle type. When you leave, the sound doesn't cut, the emitter just stays where you left it and fades out naturally. And we only clean it up much later if you never come back. So it's extremely cheap on performance, and because the sounds rise on your speed instead of your distance to each plant, it also feels far more natural and alive. So you can see it's a loop sound, and we drive a player velocity to pull it back. Okay. So the third mode is auto emitter. And talking about this one, I have to use this Wise channel to give respect to the audio team of Dying Light 2. In their GTC talk, they shared the idea of sound level designer is amazing, which inspired us a lot, and we learned their auto emitter approach too. When the night grid loads a big batch of tree or foliage points, the client code spawn one actor and posts one event. What actually does it do? Teleport. On a set time interval, the client randomly pick one point of this few hundred and instantly teleport the actor there. Okay, but the real magic is on the Y side. In Wise, we set the event with continuous trigger rate, and we check one super important option, hold emitter position and orientation. These two together make a wonderful effect. The GAN teleports the actor to tree A, and Wise play a bird call. Half a second later, the client teleports to tree B, 5 meters away, but because Wise locked the starting position of previous sound, the bird call stayed at tree A and finished playing there. It does not follow the actor. Just like that, with very little code and one wandering actor, plus one smart reuse, we weave a random but spatially accurate net of bird and insect sound in the forest around the player. This is our auto emitter. Minimum code, maximum listening experience. One big benefit of this design is a very clean decoupling. For example, on a raining night, we want fewer birds and inside sound. With the old school one-shot way, we have to hook weather and the time system into the client code to control the trigger timer. But by checking this option and using continuous mode, we keep all the behavior inside Wise. The client code only handles the position wandering, and the audio designer can directly use weather or time RTPCs in Wise to shape the trigger rate curve. This way, with very little config, we keep full control of ambience changes inside the Wise workflow. Okay. So beside the global ID table, to fit each level's performance and the sound needs, we made a separate config table for each level. The DT SoundSeed config you see there. This table not only says which ambience types the level has, but also hides our deep thinking about loading and the precision. First, types and subfolder name. Because each open world level has a totally different environment, we use the table to say which ambience info the world has, like bush, like water, like rain. And one set of info can have several playback modes, which saves us a lot of loaded data. Second, the 9-grid streaming distance size. The size in the table is the load radius for our 9-grid. This lets us decide based on performance, budget, and how loud the source is, whether a SoundSeed starts loading at 32 meters or preload at 64 meters for the best balance. Third, storage saving and precision, offset scale. This is the most hardcore parameter in the table. To save the most storage, we don't keep each point's raw centimeters. Instead, every point is stored as smaller integer, measured in units of offset scale. At runtime, the system simply multiplies that integer back by offset scale to restore the real position. So the precision is decided by offset scale. The smaller it is, the finer the offset is. For example, 0.1 gives 10 centimeters steps. This two-layer config lets the audio designer easily tune each level's environment and control its sound streaming, all without touching the low-level data or code. So this config is the main entry the system tries to load, bypass every time, the player enters a new level. It defines the world ambience and also starts the whole SoundSeed runtime life cycle. To handle the huge open world scale, we designed a system of 4 cooperating modules: data loader, collector, manager, and player. First, level entry. It starts with loading the config. When a teleport happens, the system goes through 2 stages. On teleport start, the data loader records the new world ID and loads the matching level config table by pass. The partition size and offset scale in this table directly decide how the later data is read. On teleport finish, the manager tells each collector to reinitialize. The old level's 9-grid cache expires and clears by itself, so memory only keeps the current world's data. Secondly, again, the 9-grid loop. This is the core part, keeping the ambience up to date as the player moves. The data loader checks the player's partition every frame. Once the player across the zone, it works out the new 3x3 9-grids and async loads the new partitions. While out-of-range cells get cleaned up, the collector then turns the loaded raw data into world coordinates. And the manager, as the brain, runs once around every 5 frames, check the global DT SoundSeed table to find the AK events for each spawn type and send it to the right player. Finally, the playback layer. The player runs the best logic for each source. Multi-direction using set multiple position for multi-position ambience blending, collision source for foliage driven by player speed through RTPC, and the auto emitter using Wise position hold feature to fake scattered bird and insect sounds through random teleporting. So take a break.
Wow, yeah. We're getting a lot of love in the chat for these details, so thank you for bringing so much precision. It's great to have the community along with us today, and what an incredible system that you've built. Let's hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it. So let's see the SoundSeed system all working together. So the red boxes are collision source, so you get Foliage Russell, and the yellow ones, we haven't the yellow one yet. Wait a moment. And the blue one is the multiple position of legs or something else. And you can see the yellow one is all the possible position for our auto emitter. Yeah, you can hear the auto emitter, the water, and the foliage rustle. It's a really big topic. I finish. So I know after such a long deep dive, everyone is probably tired. Let's switch to something lighter and more fun. Next, welcome to our efficient toolbox part and our next topic, WAAPI Hot Reload. Okay. All right. After all this hell losing, low-level data flows, let's talk about something light, something fun, and maybe even good for our health. The story happens late one night. My colleague, Steven, had just finished the logic of for one feature and was about to hit play in Unreal to hear the result. But right then, everything went silent. Anyone who works on a big world project know this pain. We spent a lot of time waiting for Wise to generate some banks and then for that Unreal asset reconcile, which feels long enough to take a vacation or some YouTube video. And let me defend Wise here. It's really not the tool's fault. It's purely because Infinity Nikki's asset side is just so huge. I remember that we have about 100 or 200 gigabytes Wise projects. Yeah, it's huge. And yeah, Steven still at the slow progress bar and in the Jenkins and complained to me a little. Then a few other guys who hadn't gone home came over and watched it. I don't know why they come to watch it. And all staring at the slowly crawling percentage. And we start thinking, do audio designers' creativity really have to be warmed down by this repetitive packaging? And I know Wise have live media transfer in 2025, but unfortunately, we are wrong 2022, right? So
Right.
as you know, Wise Unreal integration used the local sound engine SDK at runtime, post event, set state, set switch, set RTPC. All these calls hits the local sound engine. And the local sound engine needs the already generated sound banks data. So if an audio designer change anything, almost anything in Wise Origin, the Unreal side has to repackage, reconcile, and restart PIE before you compare it. That's why Steven is zooming out in front of the progress bar. And right then, an idea hit me. I said, wait, Wise already gives us a powerful WAAPI, the Wise Ordering API. Why do we keep fighting the packaged banks? Wise Ordering is also open next to us while we play in editor. So why not let the game makes a cross-dimension call straight to Wise Ordering, skip packaging, skip reconnect, let the Unreal editor call WAAPI directly to make sound. So I will never forget Steven's just woke up look. Really, in that moment, we look at each other, full of hope of freedom. I pat Steven on the shoulder and said, bro, since you are the one who got tired of waiting, why don't you write it yourself and help us out? and Steven barely hesitated and said, sure, I will write it tomorrow. And Steven couldn't join us at this Wise Unplugged Air today, so I put a photo of his dog at the bottom right corner. So this little idea, born from a late night complaint, grew into a whole WAAPI Hot Reload system. Now let me show you how this lazy thought completely changed how happy our team at work. So this system split into two pipelines. The first is runtime hot reload. Here Wise changes instantly in Unreal Editor. The second is local reconcile. Make newly created events, switches, states, triggers usable in Unreal without packaging. They work together. One is about hearing and one is about referencing. Okay. So let's start with pipeline 1. Our idea is very direct and brute force. Wise Origin also run a full sound engine, almost full sound engine on the Origin side, and through WAAPI exposes almost all the key runtime APIs under the AK.sound engine namespace. So why not during Unreal Editor mirroring every sound engine API call in Unreal that is right next to the normal local call, we file one more WAAPI call with the exact same parameter, so the sound engine on Wise Origin side get the same GAN commands at the same time. This way, whatever the audio designer change Wise, the waveform, the hierarchy, random container, attenuation curve, switch logic, music switch, as long as Origin is running, the Unreal editor hears the latest sound right away. No packaging, no reconcile. So how do we do this at the low level? We got the whole thing with a compile time Marco. XAS support WAAPI Hot Reload is only on when with editor and AK support WAAPI are both true. So this code only exists in editor builds. In shaping and runtime build, there's zero cost, no performance hit at all. So you can also see a couple of key constants here. WAAPI dummy listener is the GAN ID of virtual listener we made just for the WAAPI side, and the WAAPI Hot Reload connect timeout is the timeout for the WAAPI course. So at runtime, the switch lives in Unreal's PIE hooks, look as begin PIE. We only turn it on when two things line up. The user checks the option and the WAAPI can reach the Wise origin. Once it's on, 3 quick steps. 1, clean up leftover states with stop all WAAPI and unregistered GAN object WAAPI. 2, register a dummy GAN object. 3, the important one, drop the local sound engine's master volume GAN parameter to 0, so the local engine goes silent. When PIE ends and PIE does the same cleanup in reverse, restore the local volume to 100, stop all sounds on the origin side, unregister the GAN object, and turn off the flag. The whole life cycle is very clean. So how is the code hijack injected? In the AK audio device header, we declared a same name blah blah WAAPI version for every sound engine API that needs mirroring. Log POSI one WAAPI, set state WAAPI, set switch WAAPI, set RPC value WAAPI, set position WAAPI, stop all WAAPI, sequence event WAAPI, post trigger WAAPI, set GAN object extend values WAAPI. I'm talking about WAAPI, but it sounds like rapping. Yeah. So we have covers almost all of the sound engine's runtime APIs. Now let's take post event, probably one of the most frequent calls as an example. Look at the code. The normal sound engine post event run as euro and gets a local playing ID. Then if Hot Reload is on, we send the exact same post event to the Wise origin side with post event WAAPI. The origin side return is on WAAPI playing ID. Then we use connect WAAPI playing ID to link these two playing ID. So why do we need to link them? Because later, if the GAN logic want to store or seek some playing ID, we need to translate the local ID into the origin side ID to control the WAAPI sound correctly. The local post event returns playing ID A, the WAAPI side return a play ID B, and the connect WAAPI playing ID links them both ways. After that, all stop, seek, execution calls get auto-translate to the origin side ID. So what's inside the blah blah WAAPI function basically is a translation layer from C++ sound engine API to WAAPI JSON RPC call. Take post event WAAPI as an example. It just gets the WAAPI clients, builds a JSON argument object, puts in the event ID and GAN object ID, then calls ak.sender sound engine.post event endpoint. From the JSON it gets back, it reads the playing ID, and that's it. Every other API works the same way. Set states map to AK sound engine set state, set switch to set switch, set RPC to set RCBC value. Just turn the C++ parameter into JSON and send them to Wise origin. And here is the set position WAAPI. The sharp eye among you may have noticed something different. The post event WAAPI is just now use the synchronized call, but this set position WAAPI use the asynchronous call instead. This is because call like post event has to wait for Wise ordering side to return my playing ID, so it must wait synchronously. But high frequency calls like set.rtpc and set prison can fire dozens of times per frame. If we waited for WAAPI every single time, the game thread would freeze from all the waiting. So this brings up the first little surgery we did on the WAAPI layer. We added a call async method to AKWAAPI client. The code is very simple. It uses Unreal and sync task to run the WAAPI call on any thread. And if a callback is needed, it jumps back to the game thread. For calls that don't need a return value, we just pass an empty callback. Besides that, we made one more matching change. We extended the WAAPI string constants. The native WAAPI clients only had the JSON field name for the Wise ordering side under the ak.wise.call, like name, pass, ID, but the parameter for the ak.wise, ak.sendEngine namespace can object, event, state group, switch group, RTPC, position. Those names just didn't exist in the native code, so we added 29 field constants in one go. So to sum up, the whole low-level change is just two things, both tiny surgeries, one async method and one set of string constants. Because the WAAPI module in Wise Unreal integration is already so good, we only need very small changes to make the feature work. So the second pipeline is the editor side local asset reconcile. Because just hearing is not enough, designer also need to attach the new Wise stuff to Unreal's animation, blueprints, config table, or scripting tools. We need that UI asset. So we made the X6 WAAPI local reconcile is query the objects in the Wise project through WAAPI and create local proxy assets under Unreal's content/audio. This way, new events, switches, states, triggers, and oxy buses can be set up in Unreal through blueprint and script without waiting for build machine. Some of you might ask, doesn't the Wise plugin already have a reconcile feature? Why build our own? The difference is the data source. The official reconcile reads the metadata files made after generated some bank, so you have to finish packaging first before it has any data. But our local reconcile asks running Wise origin directly through WAAPI, no packaging, no waiting. As long as Wise is open, we got all the object info in 1 second. Of course, the trade-off is that what we make is just an empty shell proxy asset. It has no real soundbank data and can't play by itself, but it's fine because it's hot reload time. The alternate side made the sound. The Unreal side only needs asset reference with the right ID. So these two don't replace each other. They work together. Use local reconcile for faster integration during development and still using the official reconcile full pipeline for final builds. Let's see how WAAPI local reconcile looks like. It looks like a button in our editor. I will play video for you. So you can see we have a trigger work unit called Wise Up on Air, and I'm gonna create a trigger also called Wise Up on Air. Then I click WAAPI local cell in the background, and wait a moment, boom! The UI asset has been created very quickly. Yeah, you can reference it to blueprint, to anything you like in Unreal. Okay, the code is actually pretty simple too. 2 steps. Step 1, query. Through WAAPI, we use one line of WACO from type event, select this to pull all objects of given type from the Wise project inside get Wise unique objects. we just build the Waco query and send it to WAAPI. The JSON we get back has each object's name, GUID, path, and the parent enough to build a UE proxy asset. So step 2, create. After we get this info, we check if an asset with the same name already exists on the Unreal's project, and only create if it doesn't. And here's the key line we set is remove media proxy to true. This tells the engine this is a shell proxy. It doesn't need local engine data. In hot reload mode, the authoring side makes the sound. So we also fill in the right event ID, GUID, short ID, and name from the query. So on the top of the WAAPI Hot Reload base, we built a few subsystems, and the ClothesMixer is one of the most representative ones. Let me first talk about the scale problem with office sound. Infinity Nikki has thousands of office, right? And each one needs its own sound config for walking, jumping, dashing, attacking, spinning, and more. Some offices even have a normal phone and a transform phone. And the shoes have an extra footstep system. If an audio designer had to keep a mapping table by hand, it will be totally unrealistic once the skill grows. So the ClothesMixer is a debug UI we put on the top of our editor's runtime as core ability in one sentence. Ask Wise ordering for event hierarchy in real time, and let the audio designer finish the config by dragging and dropping. The moment the panel opens, the WAAPI proxy runs a Waco query and pullbacks all office-related events, name, type, path, parent, the full tree, no packaging, no generation bank. Whatever is in Wise shows up here right away. And it's not just asking. In the Lua layer, our scripting layer, through WAAPI proxy was subscribed to the Wise topics, name changed for library name, sync, child added, so new event shows up instantly, and child removed, so deleted event disappear instantly. The audio designer casually rename or something in Wise, and the ClothesMixer list is already updated. It's a truly live connection. So the most time-saving design is the smart ref path. If the audio designer organized the folder in Wise by convention, and once ClothesMixer gets the event tree, it automatically reads the suit tag, find the general and the phone middle layers, and matches the config type by the event suffix. The designer only does one thing: drag a ref path onto an office, and the whole config open up and write itself. Normal form, transfer form, or action types, all in one step. So let's watch a quick video. You can see it's our editor runtime. So the frame per second is pretty low, and we create an event at Wise ordering. You can see it. Yeah, it's Steven typing. And we drop our best test signal. You can hear the okay, and we open the suitcase UI, and we search the event we just create. And here's the tree layer, and we drag it. Okay, back. Yeah, everything's in. Yeah, the waveform is the same way as the test signal. So everything you change in Wise is instantly synced. In the end, all the config comes out as one JSON file, and it's auto checkout from P4 when saved. This JSON is the runtime data source. The whole chain create an event in Wise, query it with WAAPI, drag to assign, auto write to JSON, and the runtime reads it directly, zero packaging, zero restart, zero filling table by hand. And the same base also power HomeMixer, our home system, for furniture audio and other runtime editing tools. ClothesMixer can do all this because underneath it relies on the three things we talk about: the WAAPI proxy call, subscribe wrapper, the C++ call and sync ability, and local reconcile, making sure Unreal can use new asset right away. Once the foundation is built, the tools on the top come naturally. And that's everything we want to share today. Because of time, we actually have more systems we'd love to talk about. Actually, we cut our spatial audio system. And as a live service game, we have many existing systems, and we will keep improving and building new audio system version by version. We will keep sharing them on the Wise blog later. It's a great community, and thanks for all the contributors here. Thank you so much to the Wise community, and thank you, Damien, for inviting us to the Wise Upon Air.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ah, that was a masterclass in all
Thank you so
of
much.
these aspects that you've brought to the game. This last section was mind-blowing, the way that you enabled runtime, while you were in the game, modification and association. Much of this is available with the live editing and live media transfer features added, but you've taken it even further with the ability to generate these proxy Unreal assets as part of your in-game editor. This is all just amazing to see how you enable this iteration for sound design, for music. This last piece was very special. Thank you, Junjun, for bringing this. And to
Thank you, Damien. Thank you so much.
to the three of you, you have each brought your own experience and precision with Infinity Nikki across audio direction, music, technical sound design, and sound design. It has been an incredible gift to share this with the Wise community. I think that people have a lot to learn from the information that you shared. What an awesome way to spend some time today. So thank you so much for bringing such clarity to all of the work you've done.
We are very honored.
We are very honored to be here to share.
Yeah, thank you, Damien.
Because idea and idea communicated can become more and more, right?
Yeah.
That's it. There's so many valuable lessons in this presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, and I know that people out there will be excited to jump into the game to hear some of these things. Such great. I'm thinking back to even the beginning of this presentation, how the small pieces that you put in place leading to these larger experiences. I'm thinking about how supportive of the game and direction these features are, how coupled to it. And again, as we have arrived at the end where you're working real time in the game, this is clearly this iteration that you've enabled is, I think, one of the reasons you're able to arrive at such synchronicity with the game design and the gameplay. So thank you for showing us this entire picture of your development.
We're very pleasure to be here.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, folks up there who are catching up with this after the fact, drop comment in and let us know what some of your favorite parts of this presentation have been. I will drop in and chapter up this live stream so that folks can jump into the different areas. So check the description below and navigate through these incredible topics. Roger, Junjun, Wang, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. We finished.
Yeah. Okay, well, stay wise, and we'll see you next time here on Wise Up on Air. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
So much.